Do long distance relationships work? Let's dive in. Hello, I'm Francesca, love dating and relationships coach, and an expert on long distance relationships. I'm going to keep this super short and sweet because it doesn't need to be complicated. But I'm going to give you some things to ponder and my insights, not just from my experience, but also from what the research has to say. And interestingly enough, um, long distance relationships have the same percentage of success and of working out as geographically close relationships. So that's interesting because I think there's a lot of times there is the stigma that, oh, long distance relationships don't work. But if it's the same percent, then I guess you could say that about any relationship, right? But I always say it doesn't work until it does. And there are different factors around that. And those are videos for other days and other times. But right now, we're going to talk about long distance relationships. So the first piece to this is, did the relationship start in person and then become long distance, or did it start long distance? And you're welcome. I've had experience with both, and I've also have friends that have experienced both as well, but more of in person and then long distance. And those in general have been very successful for them. And I think the ones that tend to meet in person first, then become long distance, tend to have a higher success rate than starting online and being long distance from the get. And I would like to see a little more research done on that. But from what I have read, observed, when I've through friends and through some of my clients, what I think tends to happen is when you meet somebody online and they are in a different geographic location and you begin a relationship with them, there is a tendency to, I would say, over idealize them. I know in the beginning of every relationship, there's always the phase of idealizing this person because, oh my gosh, they're amazing and everything they do is amazing and they're, the most hilarious person and they're so handsome and this, that, and the other. And there's this tendency that because you're so excited and there's a connection to kind of have that train just leave the station. And so I find that there tends to be a teensy bit more with relationships that start online versus in person than go to long distance. And that can be a super slippery slope. People can put on a good face and pretend to be somebody else, but usually that doesn't last very long. Eventually that facade goes away. But that is something to think about. And also, long distance relationships are not for everybody. I know plenty of people that know themselves and they're like, oh gosh, I just could never do it. I want a partner that's here, I'm impatient, whatever their reasons are as to why it would not be a good fit for them. And so the key is to know yourself and for the other person to know themselves, because both people need to commit to this long distance relationship. And one of, I think, the main factors for success is that there needs to be an end date in sight. It can't just be this nebulous, oh, well, we'll meet when the timing is right, or when this, or we'll be together, at some undetermined time in the future. That's not going to work. There needs to be an end date. And obviously you want to meet this person before you decide on moving either way, whether you move to their location or they move to yours, or you pick a third location to move to. That is also an option too, depending on job opportunities, visa issues, if they're from another country, etc. And obviously, communication. You have to be very good at communication, and not just be good at communication, but you also have the opportunity now with modern technology for video chats, for, texting. There are a lot of free apps where you can text, phone calls, etc. Back in my day, I had some very good friends when we were students way back in the day abroad, and you only had the phone, and then you would write letters. I know, right? And no, you did not chisel these letters out of stone. I promise. They were with paper and markers and pens and all the fun things, and maybe some stickers too. But nowadays it's a lot easier to maintain communication. And within that communication, it needs to be consistent. Unless, something happens, but you're like, okay, Sundays at 2, we're going to talk. And you have like a little bit of a schedule so that there is that consistency. It gives structure to the relationship because you don't have the opportunity to go on dates. So those video chats would serve like as your dates, right? Makes sense. And you would get to know the person that way. And then obviously when you physically are together, you need to visit, etc. Make sure that it is quality time. And I haven't heard many other people mention it, if they've mentioned it at all, but it's super important to not just have vacation time, or to maybe not just meet in a third locale for vacation. You want to be able to see this person in their own space in the regular day to day, to even start to have an inkling of an idea as to whether it is going to be a good fit or not. I think sometimes people postpone that part, and then it isn't until they're physically together, living together, and within like a month and a half, 3 months, are like, holy cats, this is not at all a good fit. And so, like I said, yes, you want to see that person, and it is going to be like a vacation. It is a treat because you don't get to see that person every week or every day or whatever your regular dating schedule is. But there also needs to be a little bit of reality in that, because the reality that day to day is going to be your everyday life. Every day isn't a vacation. So it would be awesome. And yes, we can do things to make life as easy and joyful as possible, of course. But there's, bill paying, there's work, there's this, there's that, there's chores, there's all those little things. So it is important to kind of get a snippet into what their daily life is. And I think that they can be successful. Once again, with getting to know that person deeply, and sometimes it can be easier on the phone versus face to face. Some people are more open versus they kind of clam up when somebody's in front of them. So you may be able to have deeper conversations sooner in the relationship rather than later if you were dating somebody face to face. So I hope these insights were helpful and supportive. Leave any questions you may have about if you're in a long distance relationship or considering one, or maybe you had one. When did you know that it was going to work? Or maybe it didn't work out. When did you know that as well? I would love to hear from you and your thoughts and your insights from your experiences. And give it a like, click subscribe so you don't miss any video uploads. And I am super grateful for your viewing and for your like. And until next time, more love vibes to come. Ciao.